So, as most of you guys already know, I did a video on what if Batman was in My Hero Academia. But today we're talking about something similar, but a little bit different. And what I mean by that is this is Batman in My Hero Academia, but we're going to be talking about the idea of could Batman become the #1 hero in My Hero Academia. Now, for starters, we all know that obviously My Hero Academia is not in the United States, or the most of the storyline is not built within the United States. So it is going to have to be transitioned into Japan. Now, for story purposes, that's kind of like the only kind of hiccup we're going to have to do. You could start him in the United States and have him kind of do things there, starting there, but then we have a bunch of other hurdles we have to leap through. So I'm going to say Batman is in Japan. Now, for starters, we got to talk about what Batman brings to the table. What does Batman bring to the table as a person that is going to be a quote-unquote superhero and a quote-unquote hero of this world? Now, for starters, I want to bring this up. Would Batman legitimately be a traditional hero? Would Batman be a hero that is legally licensed in the place of Japan? That's a good question, because for the large portion of Batman's kind of stake in being Batman, he was a vigilante, right? A lot of people and a lot of police officers and a lot of kind of counties and different places believed that Batman was a vigilante. Batman was borderline a criminal, and being a vigilante isn't necessarily legal in the world of My Hero Academia. So in that term, if we keep him kind of separated into the role of vigilante, then it's pretty damn obvious that there's no chance that Batman would become the #1 hero. And that's already for the starters, right? That's just for starters. It's already going to be extremely hard for Batman to become the #1 hero, not because he's not strong, not because he's not fast, not because he's not intelligent. It's more because he doesn't have a quirk and doesn't have superpowers. But what does Batman have that could potentially get him in a place where he could become the #1 hero in My Hero Academia? Well, for starters, we got to talk about him being an anonymous hero. Yes, I honestly believe that this is a big portion or a big idea that would help Batman climb the ranks. Most heroes, if not every single one of them, they know who they are, right? Everybody knows of their name. Everybody knows of the person that they are. There is no necessarily secret identities. Yes, they do have different names than they normally have. I mean, for example, All Might himself isn't actually named All Might. His actual name isn't All Might, obviously, right? It's Toshinori. But we all know that every single hero, from your Endeavors, from your Miracos, from every single person outside of, like, you know, a couple people like Shoto Todoroki, they have their actual, like an actual hero alias type of name instead. But this time around, Batman would maintain kind of anonymity the entire time. So he would be anonymous the entire time. So he would definitely go through every single possible thing he could do to make sure that his secret identity of Bruce Wayne isn't outed. Now, does that make him a vigilante in this term? No, I would say just for story purposes, we would allow him to keep his anonymous status and his idea of, you know, not being discovered as Bruce Wayne, and allow him to keep that away from the public, but also have him be publicized as the one and only Batman. I think that's one thing that would actually and genuinely help him climb the ranks. I know it sounds weird, but in the world of My Hero Academia, being different really matters, right? It really matters. And we've seen this with Endeavor himself. Endeavor was not your typical hero. Actually, he was a bit of a scumbag. I'm gonna be honest, he was horrible. Now, Endeavor was one of those people that really grew his popularity off of raw power and his personality. Even though I'm sure some of you are like, what are you talking about? Like, his personality freaking stinks. Like, he's an awful person. You know, he's always mean, he's always angry. But that's the thing. Endeavor grew his popularity via being that hero that isn't your typical hero. Being that hero that is angry, broody, angry at the fans, stuff like that. And Batman would kind of take this same idea, but in a different way. Now, is Batman angry and broody? 100%. That's who Batman is. But Batman also kind of would keep that anonymous idea of being literally only the Dark Knight, Batman, right? And that could be his name, the Dark Knight hero, Batman. And he would be only known as the Batman. That's it. They don't know of his secret identity. Literally nobody knows, from All Might himself to hero agencies to the hero associations. They have no idea who he actually is. They just know that he is part of these associations, and he's kept a wrap on this for so long. And the reason why he's able to keep a wrap on this for so long is because every time he tells anybody about kind of what the situation is and what the course of action is for him being a hero, he tells them that he's going to be the first anonymous like hero where nobody actually knows who he is. They don't even know where he really came from. And a lot of people that hear this, a lot of schools and a lot of teachers, and as he goes through the ranks of climbing the ranks and getting his hero license and stuff like that, when they hear this, they think this is a great idea. And if they don't think it's a great idea, well, he just goes somewhere else, and he basically just gets someone to basically agree with doing this action to allow him to be a hero. Now, there's other stuff than him being anonymous that could help him potentially being this kind of hero, or at least climbing the ranks. He is an absolute genius, and he's a genius level intellect. And he'll be able to come up with some of the most insane strategies for practically everything. He's probably even smarter than people like Nezu, who is at like the pinnacle of intelligence in this world of My Hero Academia. I mean, he is a tactical, actual mastermind. So he'd be really good at almost everything. He can outthink nearly anyone in the heat of battle. He'd be able to set up traps, exploiting weaknesses, and he would have likely tons of countermeasures for almost all the major villains and heroes you could possibly even imagine. His detective skills would allow him to solve any crime you could possibly think of, for the most part, picking up and also putting down a ton of these villains that may come out to be a little bit more secretive, very similar to, well, how long it took them to catch Overhaul. Overhaul was running the Shiha Zaikai for so long without anybody knowing like who he truly was or what was truly going on. And well, this time around, Batman would easily be able to kind of figure out what's happening, what's going on, and stuff like that. But like I said, this is a lot of stuff that would help him, quote unquote, do his hero due diligence in the actionable category, because obviously you can't just be a hero through popularity or through kind of this other different style of being a hero. You do have to be somewhat powerful, right? There is kind of levels to this. Now, I will say power isn't necessarily everything. Like, it's not everything. You got to have, different ways to really connect with the people around you. And that's another thing that could really affect Batman or really affect Bruce Wayne. And we'll get into that and why I think it could affect him in the near future, and it could affect him in the course of trying to become the number one hero. Because for starters, we know what he's capable of, right? I said all the stuff like genius intellect, his detective skills, he can outthink anybody, extremely smart. But even without a quirk, which, by the way, not anybody or nobody will know that he doesn't have a quirk, because we've seen him do some super level like strength, like kind of lift up thousands of pounds, break through concrete. We've seen extreme endurance. We've seen him have lightning fast reflexes, being able to dodge and react to bullets. Like, these are things that genuinely Batman has done, and he, quote unquote, is just a normal human being. There's nothing normal about that human being, or in the words of Joker, right? There is nothing mere mortal about that mortal, right? There's nothing mere mortal about Batman, because that is a completely different thing. And we all know that there are quirkless like fighters, right? There are fighters out there that are in a way fighting at a high level, even though their quirk doesn't help them necessarily with the fight and, like, you know, straight up hand-to-hand combat. Like, for example, Eraserhead, yes, he can cancel quirks, but his hand-to-hand combat isn't necessarily affected by the cancellation of someone else's quirk. Let's say, for example, he goes head-to-head with somebody who has, you know, hand-to-hand combat experience, like someone like Mirako. It won't necessarily help him having an erasure quirk, and that's kind of like the idea of some of these hand-to-hand combat fighters. I mean, you could use the example of Stain as well. Even without Stain's quirk, he is extremely good and an absolute beast at hand-to-hand slash fighting with weaponry. And Batman, well, he's so much better than all these people. Batman is on a completely different level and an absolute beast in freaking combat. And the idea of him being kind of like that underground hero of the night, Dark Knight hero type of person known as the Batman might genuinely help him in climbing the ranks. It might genuinely help him or help him in kind of getting up there with some of the top heroes. I mean, shoot, a lot of people may look at Batman even in a different light than almost everyone else. Looking at Batman and being like, whoa, he's really good at martial arts. He uses gadgets. He uses utility. He's super smart, blah, blah, blah. I wonder if I can be like him. I wonder if I could do things like him, because my quirk, it's not the best. It's not the strongest. Because let's be honest, not every single person in the world of My Hero Academia is going to have a strong quirk. Actually, probably a large portion will not have a strong quirk, and another portion, being that of like 20%, are going to be quirkless. So they're going to look at Batman, even though they won't know for sure if he has a quirk or not. All they'll know is that Batman fights hand-to-hand combats, or with hand-to-hand combat, uses gadgets, uses different strategies, uses different kind of mobiles, aka like the Batmobile, the Batplane, whatever you want to think of. He uses all of these different things that kind of develop around not having a quote-unquote quirk, from your grappling hooks, your smoke bombs, your EMPs, your sonic disruptors, everything. Even same thing with the bat suit being reinforced to withstand quirk-based attacks. But we all know the bat suit alone is already extremely strong in the world of like DC. The Batman's armor is insane, but also his technology could be developed to counter quirks, similar to Eraserhead, right? Having his ability to erasure quirks out. I'm not saying Batman would have the ability to erase someone's quirk for a small period of time, maybe like a quirk EMP, but he would definitely have gadgets and technology that would help him along the way. And we got to realize that when people see this, the 20% that are quirkless and the large group of people who have absolutely horrible quirks that aren't going to help them be a hero in general, they might look at Batman and be like, whoa, this is awesome. Somebody who doesn't rely on their brute strength, somebody who doesn't rely on their quirk or their powers. It seems like he actually is relying on other things. His tactical mind, his ability to use gadgets, his technology, everything you could possibly think of. That is what Batman is truly doing. And that is going to help people that are of that 20% or of that large percentage of horrible quirks really look at things like, maybe I can be a hero and help in different ways, but I just got to open my kind of idea of being a hero to another level and a different kind of situation. Because at the end of the day, we all know that being the number one hero is genuinely more than just kind of being extremely powerful and better than everyone else. It's truly connecting with the people that are watching you save lives. And Batman, he may connect, but he might connect in a different way than you could possibly imagine. Not connecting in the way of putting your fist up and with like All Might telling everybody that they are safe. Not like carrying multiple people on your back to safety at all times. Not like that. He's not going to connect like that. But he will connect through a different, unorthodox way, very similar to the way Endeavor does, just not in the same way Endeavor does. And frankly, there's so much more Batman can do. His use of the fear factor, the psychological warfare, I mean, that might make him look a little bit more scary than anything else. I mean, All Might is known as this symbol of peace. Villains fear him, but fear him because of the peace that he's maintaining. Batman's reputation, though, it would be scaring criminals. terrifying them. The psychological effect that he would have on these criminals would make them fear the Knight so badly that they wouldn't want to come out to be a villain. That's how terrifying it would be. And of course, Batman has his no-kill rule, and he's very ethical in terms of his heroism. So it's obvious that Batman would definitely fall in line with a lot of these heroes in My Hero Academia and what you're supposed to be like as a hero in My Hero Academia, which is not killing people, because that is definitely a symbol of being a hero, is not killing, holding a moral code that aligns with well, the masses of pro heroes, and kind of acting as like, you know, someone that is respectable in society. And Batman would do it all. He would be respectable in society with his no-kill rule, with his moral code, but also be terrifying at the same time, and people would really like that. I think his influence on the hero society, if they know or if they don't know that he's, you know, quirkless, could go either way. His kind of influence on society would definitely change the outlook on what a hero is, but would also change the outlook on what you can do to become a hero. Batman is heavily relying on his detective skills, his intelligence, on top of that his hand-to-hand combat, all of these other different things that, like gadgets and stuff like that, that normally people don't rely on. But guess what? Batman does, and he relies on it in a different way. He relies on it to a different degree, so he could kind of redefine what a hero truly is, possibly putting him in the position of becoming the #1 hero. But here's the thing. I don't think he could overcome what All Might has truly built. I don't think Batman, with his outward appearance and his kind of way of doing things, would ever eclipse someone like All Might. At the end of the day, people love the outgoing, kind of typical top of the line pinnacle of heroes, of being that superhuman, Superman-like figure, someone that people can look up to, someone that you could walk down the street late at night and feel protected because you know this person exists. That's what All Might was, and that's what All Might really is throughout his entirety of his hero career. Now, would Batman be able to eclipse that? No, I don't think so. I don't think Batman would be able to eclipse that just because of who Batman is. And let's make it clear, Batman or Bruce Wayne would not give a single F about becoming the #1 hero. I want to make that very clear. I highly doubt he would even care. Now, in terms of climbing the ranks of being a hero, I could see him climbing the ranks really, really fast, almost rapidly, to the point where he has a chance at becoming the #1 during the era where All Might no longer exists. Now, the era where Endeavor's the #1 hero, Hawks is the #2, I can see that era becoming the era of the Dark Knight. The Dark Knight would climb the ranks extremely quick in that era, and I can see him possibly becoming very close, if not the #1 hero, over someone like Endeavor, especially when Endeavor goes through his kind of crisis of trying to figure out who he is and trying to be a little bit too much like All Might. I could see the Dark Knight or Batman kind of eventually conjure up a push to the #1 spot. Now, Batman himself, I don't think he would really care about it, like I said before, but I think this era would be a high likelihood of him making a push to that #1 spot because of all the reasons that I've already brought up. Now, once the other heroes come up and start making their rise, aka your Mirio Togatas, your all the heroes of Class 1A going all the way up to being adults, I don't think he would really stand a chance in this era to be the #1. I think Mirio Togata is too much like the one and only All Might, is too much like that person, like your Supermans, where you can look up to them and you can feel safe no matter what. That's what Mirio is. I mean, he literally had a goal to save 1 million people, and he did that. Like, he already did that. So it's pretty insane to even think about, but it is the truth that Lemillion really is that next version of All Might, and he really is that symbol that many people were starving for as we continued on throughout the course of the My Hero Academia story. So I don't think he'd be able to surpass Mirio, would he be in the top 10 somewhere? Maybe. That's a really like up for debate question. I would say you have all these heroes that are up and coming. You have all these heroes that are so much different. The world is so much different. I don't know for sure, but all I can say is that in the first era with All Might, with Endeavor, so it's first All Might, second Endeavor, there's no way Batman's making it at the number 1 spot. When I think he does have the possibility of making it in that number 1 spot is during the era when Endeavor's the number 1. I think Batman could definitely make his push for that number 1, even though he doesn't care about making the push for number 1. So Batman would definitely, in terms of ranking, would be relying on his kind of anonymous status, his kind of different way of being a hero to push him to that number 1 echelon. It would be extremely hard because, I mean, he obviously does not promote himself. Like, he's not going to promote himself to be this number 1 hero. He's not going to promote himself to be popular. So it would be very difficult for him to make that push no matter what. And I think if you were going to place him at number 1 at any time, it would have to be during the Endeavor number 1 hero era. But other than that, I don't think he could become the number 1 hero. Just because of who he is as a person and how he approaches being a hero. He's not like your Flash, which that's a conversation we've had before where I said, could the Flash become the number 1 hero? It was a different conversation because Barry or even Wally, they're a little bit more outgoing, a little bit more kind of out there in terms of being a hero. I can see them adapting to the popularity aspect of being a hero in My Hero Academia and kind of like showboating for the fans like they have done in different stories before. Batman, he is not like that, and I don't see him becoming like that in this world. So my answer is, could he become the number 1 hero? Possibly, but it would be in a very specific era of being a hero. So I'm gonna have to put a kind of a large no on the idea of Batman becoming the number 1 hero. But I would love to hear what you guys have to say. What do you guys think? Do you think Batman could potentially become the number 1 hero? I know some of you will be upset by this probably answer, but at the end of the day, I'm not saying Batman is weak by any means. I think Batman is extremely powerful in his own right, and I think Batman could probably solo the My Hero Academia verse if he had enough time to prepare and chose to do so. So, I mean, that was never the point of being the number 1 hero in this society. Just because you're powerful, just because you're strong, just because you're this or that, doesn't mean you could become the number 1 hero. But of course, as always, I would love to hear what you guys have to say about this idea about Batman becoming the number 1 hero in My Hero Academia. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. As always, leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below, all that good stuff. And if you enjoyed this video, YouTube believes you'll enjoy this one, so might as well go check it out.